Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the United District YouTube channel. And I'm joined by Yusuf, and we're going to be speaking about Manchester United's 2-0 win against Wigan in the FA Cup third round. It was almost one of those cup ties which you could have missed. You could have probably not been there. It was United playing a lot with the ball and not doing too much with it. Of course, Diego Dallo and Bruno Fernandes bailed us out with 2 goals, but there were countless chances for United in this game. But first of all, we're going to speak on some positives from the game. Yusuf, Alejandro Garnacho on the right wing was really promising. And it's a position that he actually has barely played for United before a couple of weeks ago when he was first trialled there. What do you make of him in that position, man?
I think it's nice for him because he was struggling a little bit on the left. So as a natural right footer, the right wing just simplifies his game. And at this stage of his development, I think sometimes it's just good to have that. I mean, it's good to be able to train players to play on either wing anyways, but right now it just makes his game simpler. He actually comes inside quite a lot more than you'd think, which is really nice. He's a bit of a two-way threat, but he goes on the outside, he puts the crosses in. And I just really like to see it's really refreshing, really electric. And you can see the chances it's creating for us.
Yeah, 100%. I like how it kind of mentioning about simplifying his game. I feel like we always say that about Rashford when he moves over there, but it doesn't always kind of work that way. Like everyone says, like if Rashford's not in great form, move him over to the right and he'll look much better because his game will be a lot more simple. But it actually seems to be working with Garnacho in the few games we've seen him there.
I think at this point, Rashford, it's like he doesn't want to play on the right as much now. Whereas with Garnacho, he's obviously in that stage where right, left, even if you put him in the middle, he'll play there. Rashford, you can tell he prefers the left or even probably playing at centre forward to the right. Not that he can't do the job on the right. I mean, he's still clearly got the ability to play there. He had some good games for us there. I mean, granted, that Everton game, for example, it was Garnacho on the left, Rashford on the right. But yeah, I think Rashford, is better to have him on the left than Garnacho on the right at the current moment.
100%. And I think there was one moment which I'd like to bring. It kind of just reminded me when I saw it happen, like something that we don't see on the United right wing at the moment, because Ten Hag is really insistent on that left-footed player, and Anthony crosses infield. We all know that he doesn't use his right foot that often. And there was one moment where Garnacho had a man behind him and he was facing away from goal. But it was I think it was early in it was that Højlund chance where he hit the crossbar,
Yeah.
and he just quickly turned his man and whipped the ball in. And I think we can argue whether Højlund should have scored that chance or not. I know commentary I felt like it was a little bit harsh. I thought he'd done well with the header, bit
Yeah.
unlucky. Maybe he should have done better.
I think he should score, but it's not a head. I think headers are a lot harder, especially for younger players than we realise.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the main thing you can take from it is that ball from Garnacho. And Højlund is probably thinking, get me more of those, because he like you said, it's hard for a younger player to be scoring those kind of headers consistently. But I would say Højlund is good enough in the air to stick a few of those away if they're coming in a consistent basis. But another academy player who shone in this game, and it's nice that United had a few academy players to speak about in this kind of slightly boring game. But Kobbie Mainoo, man, what a player. He's literally come into this United first team. And I have watched Mainoo for a couple of years. I watched him in that FA Youth Cup season where him and Garnacho were part of the team that won the tournament. And he was really good then, but you just got worries. But Yusuf, how well has he adapted to this team so far in difficult circumstances?
I think it's with young players, a lot of people talk about have they got the physicality for it. Physically, he's great, but he's just so mature for his age. He doesn't play like an 18-year-old a lot of the time. Just if anything, his biggest weakness is he's almost too composed at times. Like he's just got this calmness about him. You can tell there's a really good head on his shoulders, and he takes responsibility. That's what I really love about him. He's really happy to take on the burden of right. Everything has to go through me on the ball early, but I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to get on the ball, keep things ticking. To take over that level of responsibility in possession for Manchester United at 18, you can say, yeah, it's Wigan Athletic, but he's doing it against higher level opposition in the Premier League too. Take on that level of responsibility says a lot about what's in here. And that has always been the biggest differentiator between elite players. I think there's really big potential in Mainu, and I don't see him being a player who gets carried away with himself, who kind of gets ahead of himself. You can tell he's really humble, but adapted brilliantly. Physically, he looks really strong. And again, like we're seeing this in every game he plays, that he's not getting bullied or anything. He's just, he's got a really, really nicely rounded game, and it's, made even better by his maturity.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said there, mate. And to be honest, I it's quite intriguing, Mainu, because I feel like he's the first talent in a little while where United are so used to having these winger talents come through in the past decade or so. There's not been many central midfielders come in and just slot into the team, a team that's difficult to slot into, as many have showed, and just looks so confident and composed. And of course, he had that mistake a couple of weeks ago, and he responds to it with a couple of really good performances. And I do think there's a big future for Mainu at this club. And like you said, he seems like, and everything you read, the different reports and different players speaking on him, it seems like he's got a really good mentality to actually make it far and get through these next couple of years of development and hopefully stay at United because this is one talent which, if United are and continue to be mediocre, I can see him moving on because he's going to be a very, very good player. And I'm sure there's going to be teams sniffing around him. So hopefully we can sort our act out. One other player I wanted to speak about, Diego Dallo obviously scored the opener in the game. A very nice finish through a lot of men as well. I'm surprised it actually got through without a touch, I don't think. But I don't think that was his only good contribution in the game. I thought he had a good overall game. What would you say, Yusuf? How did you make of his performance?
I'm really happy to be honest. Okay, I think he's a better right. I think he is a right back rather than a left back. But in this current team, I actually think he's been playing really well at left back. And with Shaw out, funnily enough, Dallow's probably been the best player to fill in at left back in his absence, despite Amrabat, Reguilon. Reguilon obviously has gone back to Spurs now, but he was there. I think we had the best performances when Dallow was at left back.
Yeah. No, yeah. It is strange, isn't it? Because he's always been able to play left back. Like ever since we signed him originally, it was kind of a plus point of when Mourinho brought him in that he could also fill in at left back. And he has built, like I think last season some of his quite good performances also came from left back. But Dallow's a weird one. I don't know what you think, and this might just be what I see online, but I feel like he's really like a lot of attention goes on Dallo. I think it might just be because of Wan-Bissaka's really good defending style one-on-one. But Dallo gets a lot of stick for his defensive style, and I know he can switch off at points, and he's done it this season for a few goals. But I feel like top fullbacks are great in possession often, quite good going forward, and they're not often tested. And when they are, they can be exposed. Trent, obviously, he offers much more than Dallo in possession and in the final third, particularly. But like, if you recall, Joao Cancelo probably rated as the best left back in the Premier League, best right back, whichever he wanted to play, for a couple of seasons. And he was suspect defensively. I think in possession, and when he's inverting, like you say, when he's inverting either from left back or right back, he can be really impactful to United's style. What do you think about him inverting in? And do you think he can do that from the right side as well if Shaw does eventually come back in?
So first, I'm going to address the defending point. I'm actually going to go ahead and say this will be considered a hot take. I actually don't think there's many better fullbacks in the league defensively than Diogo Dallo. I think because you notice Wan-Bissaka so much because he's just such a monster 1v1 defending. But when you actually look at it, okay, if that wasn't the benchmark for Dallo defensively, he'd be seen as a very good defensive player. I think. I think it's just because he's being compared to a player who one-on-one is probably the best player in the world. Like because 1v1, Dallo chains up most wingers. He stops most players on both sides, but he's really good positionally as well. Like I said, he has those lapses where he switches off at points, but really good athlete, really good positionally, generally very strong 1v1. Like, yeah, he's got his flaws. He gets exposed every now and then, but when you look at how much it actually happens, it doesn't happen a lot. And a lot of the time, he does very good defending for us. But yeah, in terms of possession, I think he's fantastic inverting. I think again, when we signed him, he was seen as this flying attacking fullback, and he's just not quite got his weight of cross right. Overall, that he has a tendency to overhit them. And I still think it can be corrected because his technique is good. It's just too much power on the ball. But because he was signed and portrayed to be this flying attacking wingback type, people judge him very harshly with the ball. But actually, in possession, again, how many better fullbacks are there in the league, really? Because he is so comfortable with both feet out on the touchline, inverting. Yeah, again, whether that's from the right side or the left side. Last season, we saw him invert from the right quite a lot, and he did really well. He generally receives like a central midfielder in those areas. So I think right now from the left, it's helping because we literally our midfield. Okay, our midfield, the gaps are ridiculous. You've got literally the six and then two second strikers almost.
Yeah.
That's how high the other midfielders are playing. So having Dallo in actually really helps. And when he lined up like that for the Villa game, Dallo left back, Wan-Bissaka right back, I think what he's going to do, because obviously Villa had that box midfield where they had the narrow 4-4-2 with the wide midfielders coming inside. So I think he's going to try and match that shape up. So Dallo's good inclusion at left back because he's naturally inverting. But it helps because it just gets an extra body in the midfield. It gives Mainu just a support option, which I think he really benefits from. Mainu's done really well playing next to Dallo. So I think there's a lot of benefits having Dallo on the left. I think when Shaw's back, you've got to play Shaw really. So if it were to be Dallo playing on the right instead of Wan-Bissaka, then yeah, Dallo could definitely invert.
Moving on to some negatives from that game against Wigan at the DW Stadium, there were so many missed chances, Yusuf. I mean, Højlund and McTominay probably could have had first half hat tricks each. What were you making of their finishing? And in particular, Højlund, what are you making of his performances at the moment?
I think the finishing was just bad. You know what I always find when you go and play like these lower league teams, you either smash goals past them or you just their goalkeeper is a masterclass, or it's a mix of a goalkeeper masterclass, finishing disaster class. So Højlund, yeah, right now he does seem a little low on confidence. I think that goal against Villa helped. I think it will help in the league. I was actually quite gutted that he wasn't available for Forest because it came across as a game where actually he's just come off a goal. He could, really take off in this game. And I think in the game we could have done with him. We just really lacked that kind of threat through the middle. And regardless of what you say about his finishing, he is generating threat. Even in this team where we're not kind of creating enough as a team right now, he's still getting chances. He's still a nuisance. And that's the thing. Højlund's finishing needs some work right now. A few parts of his game need refinement. But to be honest, I did a scout report on him in the summer. I said, it's not going to be this season he explodes. It's going to be next season. I think this season was all about settling in. And I do feel bad for him because he has almost played more than we expected him to. I think we thought we were going to ease him in a bit more. He's kind of been thrown in there. It's not been easy for him. He definitely needs to finish better in some cases. That header and then that open goal, the rebound, I think that was more difficult than it looks, but it is still pretty bad. There was the one Rashford played him in where, to be honest, I just thought that was really good goalkeeping. Even if he hits that with more power, the goalkeeper just does brilliantly there. Then the other one, he actually created a shot for himself on his right foot, which is quite a nice thing to see, that not just he's willing to go on his weaker foot, but actually that he created the shot for himself. So, look, yeah, it's annoying that he's not scoring, but there's really positive signs of Højlund that he's just constantly a nuisance. If you asked the defenders he's come up against what it's been like to play against him, they'd probably say it's been really tough. Like a lot of people say, oh, but he's not scoring. But you don't have to score to be tough to play against necessarily. I think all the signs are there that the goals will come with Højlund. McTominay yesterday, yeah, again, poor finishing. To be honest, I feel bad for McTominay a bit too, because I think right now his role in this team is just not working. I think, to be honest, for the most part, it's not been working. I think because he's our top scorer, but his goals are kind of come in bursts a bit. So he had the two against Brentford off the bench, then that one against Sheffield, then the two against Chelsea. I think he scored one or two others. But I almost feel bad for him. The team's not quite working fully with him in that role. Like I said, the eights are too high. We need to drop one of them. But I don't really blame McTominay because it's how he's being used. And I think he's getting a lot of stick for it. And, sometimes, yeah, he can play better. Sometimes you'd like to see him get more involved in possession. I think a lot of people they do so much to defend him on that. But look, he really should get more involved. I just don't know why that is such a thing, a hill that people die on, that like, oh no, he doesn't need to. Like, it helps the team. And he's not incapable of, playing more, but at the same time, the way he's being used, he gets a lot of flack, but really it's more how he's being used than anything. So yeah, I do feel for McTominay, but I think we do need to drop one of this. To be honest, I think when Casemiro is back, I'd like to see him and Mainu play together, because not only it means we have two players deeper, I think it gives Mainu a bit more freedom with the ball. Casemiro can sit and cover him, almost coach him through games. I think young midfielders really benefit from having that experienced head. Say what you want about Casemiro, but if we get even 70% of the Casemiro of last season back, then huge advantage for us.
100%, mate. That would be a really interesting dynamic with those two in midfield, I think. It's a bit of a strange one. United's midfield continues to stagger everyone, and maybe one day we will sort the midfield out and the right wing. I feel like we could be in our 60s and the right wing at United will still not be sorted and the midfield three will still not be sorted. It is ridiculous. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video below. Comment what you reckon we should cover next, or what you thought of the Wigan game. And we're going to be looking ahead to the Tottenham Hotspur game next weekend, which is going to be a very important game for Erik ten Hag's side. Until then, we'll see you in the next one.